Hey, good afternoon. Welcome to our show. Gabe DeArmond, Sean Williams here. The Tuesday Tiger Recruiting Show, where we talk, appropriately enough, about Tiger recruiting. Usually try to do it on a Tuesday. The marketing department stepped up its game and came up with a creative name for the show this year. So, Sean, what's up, man? How you doing?
I am doing well. Thanks for the grand introduction there, Ed
Yeah, yeah,
McMahon. But
yeah.
yeah,
For
some
for
shows you just
those
got to keep it simple, you know? I mean, you don't want any new fancy names around here.
I mean, look, we're not reinventing the wheel here. This is not Thursday Night Football on Amazon Prime. We just get together in our little home offices and do a little 20-minute chat every week.
Yeah.
For those of you watching on YouTube, thanks. Welcome in. We'd appreciate anything you can do to spread the word that we do this live every Tuesday at 2:30. That is Sean Williams, our recruiting editor on one side of the screen, Gabe DeArmond, PowerMizzou.com publisher on the other side. And if you are listening on a podcast afterwards, well, you can't see us, so you don't really care which one's which. Figure it out later. But want to, before we get into talking a little bit about Mizzou recruiting, taking your questions, anything like that. And if you do have questions or comments, feel free to put them in the queue. We will get to them and answer them as we go along. But before we do that, I want to make sure that we give our weekly shout out to James Carlton State Farm. He presents this show every single Tuesday, as well as our football show with Gerard Hamilton every Wednesday, and eventually basketball when it becomes that. When basketball season begins. But James Carlton State Farm, you can see his Facebook address there on the bottom of the screen, facebook.com/Carlton Insurance. You can give him a call. You can visit him on the internet at carltoninsurance.net. And look, you've already found the internet, so you could just Google James Carlton State Farm and find any information about him that you want. But if you call him, you're going to get a real person. You're not going to get a run around through a whole bunch of voice prompts and having to press a bunch of buttons and all that. Customer service is their thing. He's got a team of 8. They've been with him a long time. All they want is a chance at your business. They're Missouri fans, Power Mizzou subscribers, and supporters. So just give him a shot. See if he can take care of you. Give him a call there at 314-961-4800. If your insurance costs a leg and an arm, call James Carlton State Farm. And recruiting classes cost a couple legs and a couple arms these days. We are in the pay for play, NIL era in college football. And Sean, we were talking it's super slow right now. I mean, Missouri had some commitments. I saw Brett Norfleet last weekend on the sidelines, some 2024 kids, but it kind of feels like September and October has now become a little bit of the calm before the storm type of months.
Yeah, it's kind of like, and we mentioned this on our previous acutely mentioned Tiger Tuesday recruiting shows, but it's kind of like a reset period, really, because you've got guys you're going to probably check out, see their new film this fall, see their senior film, see if you're interested. You might be some possibility you try to flip some guys out there. So I think a lot of things are going to happen, more so like in November, December, and, in terms of players coming in for official visits and things like that. So I think they're pretty set right now, and, you never know. I mean, you're going to see new targets pop up. I know they're offering a lot of underclassmen right now, but we've seen them offer a handful of JUCO guys recently. So, JUCO's another route that they're going to go. Might see some more 2023 high school kids pop up as well. So,
yeah, the 2023 class still sitting at 11 commitments right now, still 60th in the country. I mean, I don't know, man. We talk about this. Is it an appropriate time for Missouri fans to be concerned about that or not yet?
I would say not yet. I mean, because like I said, it's almost like a reset button period. You're trying to figure out who you can get on campus later in the fall and things like that. I know a lot of talk about Marvin Burks might be committed already, but you're just kind of waiting to see what's happening. Who knows? That would be a big get. Another 4-star kid, in-state kid in the class. So we'll see what happens with him. Obviously, he was in for the season opener, so I mean that was obviously good news to have him back on campus after his official this summer.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, a little bit, but we've said this, it's not gonna. This class isn't going to be as good as it has been the last 2 years in terms of rankings and numbers and where they kind of stack up in the SEC and overall in the national rankings. So, but yeah, cause for concern, maybe a little bit, I guess, just in terms of you did swing and miss on some guys you really wanted, but Breikert's good, Burks would be a good addition. I think a lot of will probably kind of also hinge on how the season shapes up too, and the trajectory of where the program's going under Drinkwitz right now. So,
yeah, well, here's where Missouri fans sit right now from Finish Strong, who I can tell you from previous shows is, I'm just going to say it, maybe not the most optimistic Missouri fan that watches us here on YouTube, but we take all kinds. We appreciate optimists, pessimists, trolls, whatever. We don't care. I mean, as long as you're watching, as long as you're, giving us nice reviews, that's all we care about. But he says, will this be the worst recruitment class in school history? I think it's possible unless Drink starts winning some games. Sean, I think it's not possible. I think it is not possible that this is going to be the worst recruiting class in the history of the University of Missouri.
I don't think so either. Hey, look, I'm not going to sit here and go back and look at the numbers, but I'm pretty sure this won't be the worst class ever. I think they can string it together and get in the 50s.
Yeah, I tell you what, man, that 1907 class I felt like was rough for Missouri. I think I think Dave Campbell's Texas football had some of those guys rated real low, and that really hurt Missouri. Really started picking it up for a little while in the teens, but then all their good recruits were going to war and stuff, and they really struggled for a few years.
Those recruiting classes during World War II were really tough,
Yeah, but then after World War II, it was great. You could recruit like 27-year-olds.
Right, so. Exactly. Yeah.
So jump back. Broke Breakfast wants to know anything new on Jabari Johnson. Seems like it's been quiet around him. I think that's a good thing for Missouri that it's been quiet.
Yeah,
right? Like we haven't seen he's not tweeting out a million offers. He's not taking visits. He just committed to Missouri, and that's where it's at.
Yeah, it seems to be pretty cut and dry with him. Whenever he came in for his spring official, and he came in for the official, and he committed, and he's good. And I think he's, with every commitment they've had since then, I think he's responded. On Twitter, he's been very vocal about recruiting other guys. Whenever they jump into class, he always subtweets them. So, you want it to be quiet. You don't want him tweeting out more offers, man.
Right.
I mean. Right. But we were talking about that before we came on the show. Had a big game this past week, and I think, let me look at the stats here: 206 yards passing, and he had 273 rushing yards too. So I think one of those was like an 85-yard touchdown run up the middle. So he's definitely got some dual threat capabilities at quarterback. I'm sure that's something that Missouri was very much looking for in a quarterback in this class. So he's definitely got the goods. He had a big game this past week. So
yeah, I was going to say that definitely qualifies to have him ranked as a dual threat guy. I think you run for 273 in one game, you're not a pro style quarterback.
If you can break off an 85-yard touchdown run up the middle, yeah, you probably need to be a dual threat quarterback.
No question. So that's kind of a thing we said we want to talk about. The guys that are, you mentioned Jabari Johnson. You do Following the Future every Monday. Other guys, I mean, I think you have to start with Jamal Roberts. Seems to be having a hell of a year in St. Louis.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how many total yards he's got, but he just rushed for 239 again. And he rushed we were there, I was there for his first game of the season against SLU, and he rushed for 229 in that game. So, but then
getting better.
His previous game, or his last game over the weekend, 239, 5 touchdowns. One of those was a kick return touchdown, and he also had a 99-yard touchdown runner. So, he's doing big things. And it's funny, a lot of people, or at least a couple people on social media and on our message board as well, have been saying, well, he's underrated. Yeah. Hey, man, if he keeps putting up these numbers, he might be a 4-star. We'll just kind of see how that goes throughout the season. But
yeah, well, that's what I was wondering. Is he underrated? But also, like, people forget Missouri didn't offer him till like July. I mean, this was not a kid that had a Missouri offer a year and a half ago that's been on the radar forever.
Yeah, I mean, you think back at his recruiting process, and I mean, yeah, he came in for a camp, got an offer, and it wasn't. I would say he wasn't necessarily a take right away because they were
Mhm.
still trying to figure out where things were with Jeremiah Love, and then I think they kind of realized Jeremiah Love was kind of out of the picture, and they brought Jamal back in, and he committed to Missouri. But I think that might be a really good pickup for Missouri, when it's all said and done.
Mhm.
When you look back in like 2 or 3 years, whenever he's out there at running back, he might be an all SEC running back. You never know. So that's what's kind of cool about recruiting classes and trying to project. But Jamal's
Right.
putting together a heck of a season right now, and if he keeps putting up numbers like that, I mean, he'll definitely be in consideration to be bumped up in the rankings for sure.
Yeah. Anybody else that when you're doing this every week, kind of running down stats that's really jumped out is having a big year?
Yeah, I was gonna say, make a couple notes. I mean, Nicholas Deloach at a Kohaki
Cahokia.
Cahokia. Yeah, there you
Yeah.
go. See, I always mess up with the Cahokia thing. But his team's not doing too great this year, but man, he's putting up some great numbers. I mean, he plays both sides of the ball. He's always on the field. In his game this past weekend, he had 7 catches, 90 yards. He had 7 tackles on defense. He returns kicks. He returns punts. So he always puts up really good numbers on offense and defense every week when I put these things together. So,
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, I think he's kind of an under the radar type of stud kind of player. I mean, I know Missouri likes him in the secondary, and I think he might be a guy to keep an eye on in the future for sure.
I want him to like kick and play the trumpet too. I mean, kid doesn't need to be coming off the field ever, right?
There was a kid in Tennessee that played the trumpet for the national anthem, and then he went out there and played
There
quarterback
you
for
go.
his team. So yeah, and then you got
Well,
the dude from Kansas City that's a kicker too, the safety.
right, like Craig, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So,
Uh,
well, no, I'm talking about I'm talking about the
you're
Chiefs. Yeah,
Justin Reed, right,
yeah.
right, yeah. Well, I remember William Moore, who was he was like an All Big 12 safety here in the mid 2000s. He played in the high school band, like he would play in the marching band at halftime in
Hmm.
Hayti, Missouri, in his football uniform. So
Yeah, yeah.
I don't think Hayti had a ton of kids. Like you take one saxophone out of that band, it might really impact the sound. So they needed Willie Moe out there. Um, look, there were some 2024 kids on campus. I mean, it's a little early for me to start jumping into all of that and what the state has. But I actually got a chance to talk to Jeff Hafer, who played basketball here back when I was in school, and his son is now being recruited as a tight end from Joplin. That was more a conversation of, man, this kind of sucks that we're old enough that our kids are in college and being recruited to go to college and things like that. But Jeff was coaching basketball up till about a year ago. Brought his son Witt up to the game, and quite a few younger guys there.
Yeah, yeah. Witt, definitely a new target from Missouri, and obviously, he's 6'7". He's over, like 230. So I mean, he's a big frame
Six
kid,
seven,
and
wow.
yeah. So we did a story on him pretty recent. And obviously, got ties to Missouri. So I mean, that's definitely something to keep an eye on. And Brian Huff, the linebacker out of
Yep.
Arkansas, he was in town.
Yeah,
So
he was a good looking kid. I mean, he's one of those kids that I saw. I was walking along the sidelines and I go, "Damn, who's that?" And then I
yeah,
saw his name tag. Yeah.
yeah, I got some feedback from him. He really enjoyed his visit, so I have a story on him here pretty soon. And then they had Keon Gray, the
Yeah.
lineman out of Hazelwood Central. Missouri kind of brought him in this summer, and they offered him. He kind of worked out at like offensive lineman, defensive lineman. I think Missouri kind of likes him more on the offensive side of the ball. But obviously, Missouri's made a pretty good impact on his recruiting process so far early on. So he's another guy to keep an eye on.
Next home game is going to be October 1st. It's Georgia at 6:30. I mean, I would think, if you're bringing kids in and you want to show them off an atmosphere, I mean, look, you're probably not going to win the game, but I don't think anybody who's being recruited by Missouri is going to come here and go, "Oh, well, Georgia's better than them. I'm not going to go there now." I mean, I think you probably know Georgia's pretty good at football, right? So, to me, primetime game should be the biggest crowd of the year, I would think, especially if Missouri maybe can pull off a win this weekend. I would think that would be a time that maybe some of these kids, especially the committed kids and maybe some of the 23 and 24 kids will be in town.
Yeah, that's every indication I'm getting from everybody I talk to. That's going to be a big visit weekend. I know Ryan Wingo said he's going to probably be back in Missouri for that game, and Clint Cosgrove did a national story today about kind of the impact of a guy like Luther Burden and how teams are
Mhm.
kind of utilizing those high profile freshmen, just for the future of recruiting. And I mean, Wingo pretty much says, like I said, hey, what are you going to be checking out? I know you've been to Missouri a bunch of times already. What do you want to check out when you go to that Georgia game? I want to see how Luther does. So,
Yeah.
people, I mean, wide
But-
receivers are going to be watching that. So,
Right. And I read that story from Clint, and my first thought was like, I don't think this is a new development. I don't think, getting 5-star freshmen on the field and telling high school kids, look, you can play as a true freshman. Like, I think that's kind of a tale as old as time in recruiting, right? I mean, that's why we've been saying, Luther Burden's going to get the ball a lot.
Yeah. But, I think you kind of also at the same time, I think you kind of want to see it with your own eyes. You can tell somebody that,
Yeah.
but you want to make sure the coaching staff is able to scheme up some plays to get him the ball. So
Right.
you just want to make sure that coaches aren't kind of blowing smoke up your butt. So they do have a game plan; they're going to stick to it. But yeah, the Georgia game, it's kind of a double-edged sword. You're playing Georgia, you're not going to win, but I think you're banking off it being a big crowd. The atmosphere is good.
Good atmosphere.
Everybody can see the facilities, and then the coaching staff be like, "Hey, we got beat, but here's opportunities here, and here, and opportunities for early playing time for you guys if you want to come here." So
right. I mean, I've always said you sell one of two things in recruiting. You either sell, if you're Georgia, you sell, we're on top. Come help keep us on top. If you're Missouri, you sell, we're not on top. We need you to help get us on top. I mean, those are the only two pitches that really end up mattering. As far as Burden goes, I got an idea. I don't know if anybody's thought of this. They should have him return punts. I feel like he would be good at that.
Yeah, we kind of been talking about that since the beginning of the year, and
Finally did it.
Lo and behold, what happened? And it's funny that it kind of happened on a punt. It kind of was kind of hanging out, and he just picked it up. It bounced. Seen him do it a million times in high school. He kind of takes those bounce punts, and then he just picks them up and he runs. So that's exactly what happened. Another thing they need to do with the recruits during the Georgia game is give them all Luther Burden potato chips too.
Absolutely. Also, like bags of cash, right? I mean, I'm sorry, not actual cash, just insinuate that there are guys who are on our team who have NIL deals for bags of cash. And we're not saying that you would get bags of cash, but there are guys on our team who do through NIL.
Well, you can put bags of cash in the Luther Burden potato chips, or you can just go the Tennessee route and put them in a Happy Meal bag. I mean, it's really whatever you want to do.
Zach had exactly your idea. Luther Burden chip bags filled with cash. Perfect. So, look, no part of the Tuesday Tiger Recruiting Show advocates cheating. We want everyone who does NIL, as we know college coaches do across the country, to do it the right way. This is not pay for play. It is not a recruiting inducement. That has never happened anywhere in college football. So we want to be very clear on that.
Totally clean. Totally
so one other thing that's going on next weekend, and Sean is obviously 99% football with us, but next weekend Missouri is actually having their first basketball practice. They're setting up a basketball court on the quad on Friday night, and they're going to have 3 or 4 official visitors in. That'll be not this coming Friday, but the following Friday. They'll have 3 or 4 kids in for that. They had 3 official visitors. We have talked to them all. There are stories on the site. Marcus Allen, Jordan Butler, and T.O. Barrett. And they also had a couple of unofficial visitors, including Nas Cunningham, the number 2 player in the country in the 2024 class, that tends to draw some attention when you get the number 2 kid in any class on campus.
Yeah, that should pop some eyeballs and turn some heads right there. I mean, I think putting up a court on the quad is a pretty awesome idea.
Yeah, it is kind of. I'll be interested to see what it's like.
Yeah, I don't know if that's going to be broadcast or anything like that, but I am curious to see video of that and just kind of see how that kind of presents. I think it's a really awesome idea and it's something different. Yeah, I mean, do it.
For sure. We'll certainly be over there covering that on Friday. I believe it's September 30th. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, pretty quiet. Road game this weekend. I'm gonna head that way on Friday with Gerard Hamilton. So Sean will hold down the fort on anything that happens recruiting wise, and we just want to hang out with you guys every Tuesday. Make sure we're keeping you up to date. I don't know, Sean, did we miss anything, man? Anything you want to say?
Yeah, I think you forgot the schedule where I will be in St. Louis to
there
watch Brett Norfleet and Jakai Lang play each other Friday night.
Okay.
So I will be in St. Louis for that.
We call that economic scheduling, right? We get two commitments, one game. That's just us being smart, man. I knew you were going to be on the road, but
it's
I forgot to mention it.
It's going to be tough because I do like to take highlights, and since one plays offense and the other plays defense, it will be a little bit tough for me to get complete highlights of everybody. But I'll try my best.
I mean, there may be times because Lang lines up some at defensive end. There could be times Norfleet could block Lang, and you could just get lucky.
I'm hoping there's some pretty good matchups there between the two, and get those on video. So
for sure. All right. So Sean will be in St. Louis. I'll be in Auburn, Alabama with Gerard Hamilton. James Carlton will be available on the phone or online as he always is. Well, I mean, maybe not on the phone 24 hours a day, but definitely online 24 hours a day. CarltonInsurance.net. And James just wants a shot to earn your insurance business. And one of the things he's going to do, if you call him or you email him, get in touch with him anyway, and you tell him you heard about him on Power Mizzou or on this show, this podcast, however you're listening, then if he gives you a quote, he's going to donate $20 to Missouri's NIL collective that is advancing Missouri athletes. He's a Missouri fan. He wants Mizzou to do well. So given that I assume if you're watching this show, you kind of feel the same way, hey, you got to have insurance. Why wouldn't you use a Power Mizzou guy and a Missouri fan to take care of your insurance needs? So make sure to do that. James Carlton, State Farm Insurance, CarltonInsurance.net. His phone number is 314-961-4800. You can get in touch with him. Before you log off, if you joined us live, appreciate you doing that on a Tuesday afternoon, helping you through your workday. Like the show, subscribe to the channel, all those things. If you're listening on the podcast, leave a 5-star review, and join us again. So, Sean, I don't know. I guess we'll do this again. Let's do it on Tuesday. How's that sound?
Sounds great. Considering the show's name, I wouldn't want to do it any other day.
All right, man. Sean Williams there. Gabe DeArmond here. Appreciate you guys listening. Talk to you next time.